Welcome to Canvas of the Heart, presented by Free Arts for Abused Children of Arizona. The mission of Free Arts is to transform children's trauma to resilience through the arts. This show is a collection of conversations that spotlight the ways Free Arts creates hope for children and teens who've experienced abuse, neglect, or homelessness. We hope you find this show to be informative, inspiring, and fun. All right, welcome back to Canvas of the Heart. I'm here with Jenna. I'm Matt, part of the programs team. And today we're joined with two guests, Beth, Garrett-Coleman, who is also part of the Free Arts program team, and Bragg, who's a professional artist. So welcome. We're glad to have both of you join the show today.
Hello, glad to be here.
Yeah, our theme today is to talk about something that's really at the heart of what we do with Free Arts and is impossible to describe only with words. It's experiential, but it is really core, I think, in terms of what can really connect to a young person. We're here to talk about theater camp. And theater camp's typically held in the summer. We're being reflective about it. It's already been held as this is being discussed. And we want to talk about what's special about that. So I'll ask both of you to start us off. Like, if you have to describe it to somebody who doesn't know anything about Free Arts, Beth, what is theater camp?
I usually start off with, this is going to be really hard to describe with words because it's difficult to explain. But the gist of it is that we are bringing usually teens from various social service agencies that Free Arts serves together. And they're going to rotate through a couple of different art forms. They're going to build some skills with us. And while they're building those skills in art, they're also building skills in like communication and teamwork and bonding. And they are slowly over the course of 2 weeks during the day putting together a show that they usually put on at the Herberger Theater Center in downtown Phoenix in front of a lot of people, which seems like a lot of pressure in the beginning, but you really get to watch them like step into their power and do the darn thing, which is amazing. So,
where do the young people come from?
They tend to come from usually foster care group homes, but occasionally we have some at various shelters, like a homeless shelter, where children will be brought usually to the Herberger so that they can rotate through the artists there, which is really cool.
Excellent. Chanel, what's theater camp?
Theater camp, so can I go back, blast from the past for a moment? So when I first did theater camp, it was in 2017, I believe, and I was a counselor first. And so I'm so excited that I got to step into this space of being an artist. Part of what I do in the community is advocacy for the arts, and so I call myself an artivist of all things.
It's a new word for me.
That's nice.
I do.
And I
so
do
creative.
And I do like linking, though, the things that I'm passionate about. And I feel like Free Arts embodies all of those things. So camp specifically, as an artist, it allowed me to really tap into what we find within those groups, which is sometimes needing for a little bit more self-agency or needing for advocacy or learning, even just standard basic public speaking skills. Yeah. Camp allows for that. And then on a more technical term, as far as theater is concerned, we're doing devised work. And that just means that we're taking lots of different mediums, putting them together underneath a common theme, technically, and then we perform a work that we create together. And that's not done in a lot of theater settings. That's a very special thing that's done. I do say after COVID, there's been a birth of a lot more devised work that has happened in collaboration, which is really exciting how the theater medium is shifting. Post-COVID world, that there's more devised work. But I would say that Free Arts has been ahead of the game because you've already been kind of working in that model. And so we use a lot of improv and different things like that to help put that forward. So yeah, really exciting. But for me, it is an opportunity for students that don't really have a lot of access to the arts or to theater to learn not only theater terminology, but also they become composers, essentially, of their own work, which is really exciting.
So what are some of those mediums? Because I think when people look at Free Arts, they automatically think one thing, right? Like arts and crafts type work. And so we spend a lot of time trying to make sure that we educate people on all of the things that we do. So now for them to say, oh, there's theater now, is it only just the performance of acting or like memorizing lines? Like what are the different mediums that you've incorporated in these workshops for the teens to rotate through?
I'll jump in.
Go for it, please. You're the teaching artist.
So I was one of the teaching artists. So I was amongst a group of 4 teaching artists. We all had different areas of interest that we helped support. So there was, I won't give names. Should I give names? Like, I don't know if we're allowed. But like Folade, who focused on music, right? So any rotations that went through his class learned about drumming and body percussion as well. So how to make music both by yourself, but also with an instrument, which is really exciting. And then we had Jay, who was over spoken word. So a lot of our students really resonate with writing poetry or journaling or anything like that. And ironically enough, they're not even realizing that they are playwrights in their own right, or even good at writing lyrics because of the skills that they're learning in that class. So we have that, and then we had for hip hop.
We had Vovera for movement.
Yes, Vovera, who did movement. And it was really great because his specialty was in hip hop and b-boy style, but he really did connect with the students about what they felt were good in their bodies. And then he used movement to help them only elevate what they were already having naturally, which is really exciting too. So yeah, so you have movement, you have music, you have poetry, and you have theater, which was based in improv. So the students literally rotate from class to class, learning more about each medium, which is really great too, that versatility, because then it allows them to find something in it that they like. Not everybody vibes with theater. Sometimes people vibe with different things, and I like that this camp allows multi opportunities of learning for our students to connect to a different art medium that speaks to them specifically.
Yeah. I'll add, if I may, that I think the special part of those things is spoken word, maybe in particular, but also movement and theater sometimes require things in you that aren't required when you're just working on your own arts and crafts. So there's that like working together, learning more about each other, hearing, oh, maybe this other kid has gone through something that I've gone through, and I know what that feels like, and maybe we can work together and make a piece like that. So there's some like extra special skills that are coming that aren't just related to the art medium, which is really fun.
It's noticeable that there are moments where people are identifying because at first with another person because they see like, oh, we're into the same thing, or we might have the same kind of look, but then there is the bonding that occurs over the common experience, the common sense, the sense like that all humans have, right? Of wanting to connect, to belong, to create, right? So that's an important part of this. And so I'm wondering, as you both kind of consider that, how do you position yourself and the volunteers and artists involved to encourage that?
It's a good question. I think I'll say that I think we spend some time before camp as adults in this space talking about what do we do when XYZ happens. We spend a lot of time. There's a lot of preparation. And part of that really is like, how do I interact with a teen who's like just not up for engaging, or how do I build rapport, like just some 101, like here's how you interact with a teenager refresher things, but going into the space and being willing to like meet teenagers where they're at, knowing that they're going to come in and maybe they didn't have a super smooth breakfast at home and they're just not feeling it and they don't want to be here. And just doing your best to say, well, why don't you give it a try for like 10 minutes and then we'll see where we're at. Or I know you really like this. Can we look forward to that thing at the end of the day and get you through the next little bit? Are like major, I would say.
I completely agree. I was going to say it's adaptability. 100%.
Yeah.
Like I feel like as a core unit, so I was appreciative of Marilyn who brought us all together, the artists together. We were hired. And what was great about him is he hired us all for our specific skill sets, but he also knew that how well we might work well with one another.
Yeah,
we hadn't met
said.
each other before, but it was very easy. Like okay, I can definitely tell. Like with Folade, I know his temperament. I can definitely connect with him. And then because like I'm a big, loud, zany, big loud voiced zany one, but then Folade is someone that's a little bit more quieter and speak. But when he speaks, everybody listens, right? And there's a power in that quietness. And so I appreciated that he was able to give insight about the students in a way that I needed to hear and vice versa. So if we needed support on how to reach certain campers, we would have these, moments afterward where we would talk about it, and in a way that was instructive and constructive, of trying to connect to the students and really make sure they had the best possible experience. And how I vibe with someone may be different than the way Beth vibes with someone and vice versa. So it was just really nice to have each other's back and be willing to adapt on spot for whatever the needs were for the camper.
That's awesome. So now, what I'm hearing is the safety net for the kids and making sure that they're good to go. But then that supportive network amongst you all as the adults in that space, and then letting that translate into the work that you do. So what is the evolution, I guess, maybe that you saw? Because I would like to think that not everybody was fully on board in the very beginning. So, coming up and saying, yeah, sure, I want camp. And then it's like, I don't know anymore. So what was that process like from start to finish? First off, how long was it? What was the process like over that time frame? Do you feel like those goals were met?
Ooh, those are all very good questions.
Tackle them how you want to.
I'll say it depends on the young person. We had some that really did walk in the door eager to speak, eager to share, and knew like in themselves, like, I have something that's worth sharing and I'm going to do that, which is awesome. And we had some young people that walked in and were like, I don't really want to be here. I know I said I wanted to be here when we signed up for this thing, but I'm just not feeling it. And I think that process can take anywhere from like they just need a couple of minutes to get reoriented to they need a day and tomorrow's just going to be better. And I think we had some where it took them a good week or maybe a week and a half to really like feel like they were engaging and they were getting good things out of it. So it depends on the kid. But I would say that every one of the campers we had was able to step in and do something brave on stage, whether it was big or small. From their perspective, it was all big. So I would say that we were definitely able to meet those goals.
Yes, I felt very great with the end result and that we met expectations. But what I love about this process, and this is why I come back to Free Arts year after year after year, it's because you learn how to manage your expectations as an artist and what you're putting on your students and recognizing that that's not always the best thing. Right. Yeah. Because what is, and I won't say names, but what is best for one student definitely isn't best for another. Right. And so how do we do that, that margin of success, right? That margin of success may look like they actually stood there and said nothing. But they did it under lights.
Yep.
Yeah.
When before, the whole week before, I couldn't get that person to come out of the wing. We're not even talking about onto the stage. I'm talking about in the wings of the side of the stage, which are the curtains for anyone that's not in the theater. Could not get a particular camper out from the literal curtains. Yeah. And by this sharing, not only were they on stage, they were on stage in makeup, in a costume of sorts. And even though they were felt challenged in the moment, they still did it. And I said, it's about your own personal growth. I said, I'm not going to make you come out here. But will you walk away from this 2 weeks and feel like you really put yourself out there? That's how I presented it. So then we negotiated. And for that particular camper, the negotiation was, I will do this, but I don't feel comfortable doing that. And so then we let go of the other piece. And I was very proud of that student for what they were able to do. And so that was the mountain, the big thing to that student. They didn't say any lines, but just standing there in their confidence and in their power under bright light in a room full of 300 people.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. And so we celebrate that.
And people don't get what that light is like. So we talk about, being in the spotlight, but it came as a metaphor for a real reason. Like, it is overwhelming. You cannot see the audience in many cases, which might help you. But it also is like that feeling of having a light so bright on you is not comfortable, right, for many people. Right. It could be a lot. Chanel, from your perspective as an artist in there, I saw you pretty early on in the first couple of days working through that with people and trying to gain a little bit of rapport. I'll use that word, right? Yes. Gain a little bit of rapport, like trust me with zaniness. I think that was your word earlier. Like, we're going to use our imagination. I always think about the 3 tools now, right? I was a successful student.
Toolbox. Good job.
Actor's toolbox, which is voice, body, and imagination,
Yes.
right? So getting people to go with it. And I think about the first day, which was like, here's my imagination. And like day 7, people have elaborate routines to express their imagination. So as you're working through that, noticing, right? I think the adult thing to do in the moment for most people is to think these kids should just realize what they have here. But your approach is different. And how are you balancing out like that sense of like, it could be, you said expectations earlier, but what's that internal process like to connect?
My internal process is really the first day, getting to know who everyone is. Immediately, within the first couple of minutes of your interaction, all right, this person responds best to this form of communication. This person responds more to encouragement. This person responds more to me just leaving them alone, right? And then modeling is really important, which is why it's so great to have the alumni that are there. Because I can rely on not only myself doing modeling, but also rely on them to help support me in that. And the volunteers that were willing to jump out there, put themselves out there. So I go extra zany on the first day, primarily to show if I'm not afraid to make a fool of myself, then this is clearly a safe place where no one is judging anyone. And so I like to start that as my base barometer of like, this is your introduction to me. I do not roll in my regular life at that level of enthusiasm because I'm tired.
There's no
and
zany
old.
grocery shopping.
No, I mean, I'm still pretty energetic, but it was definitely, and not put on either. It comes from an authentic place, but it's from a place of trying to let them know that this is a truly safe environment. So if I'm willing to look like a goofball, then you can too. And and then we'll meet you where you are now. And then if you end up being a goofball with us in 2 weeks, and great. If you're not, then that's also okay. And that does help me because I've been a teaching artist for many years in different capacities with different sets of students. And some of the students I've worked with in the past are more privileged, I would say. And there is this they have the same challenges too, though, when it comes to being in front of people speaking or being under light, and there's always that push like, whoa, we're doing Shrek Jr. and you're gonna be Farquaad, and it's like, I don't want to be Farquaad. You know what I mean? Like there's the same things that happen with all children, no matter what you have had go on in your life. And so I feel like this camp helps me be reminded of the importance of meeting young people where they are and then helping encourage them from there.
So for dear listeners and viewers, we use the word alumni. And so you may not have heard us talk about it in a prior episode. An alumni, somebody who's been through a free arts program. And in particular, many of the alumni were assistant counselors in our program. Not all assistant counselors or counselors were alumni, but some were. And that's a lived experience, both of being in the foster care system or part of our target population of who we serve, but also theater camp itself. So in some way, they're giving back. So that's just to fill in a term that we use there. And if you love that, there's a prior episode about alumni and young adult empowerment that you can check out. But just wanted to point that out to those listening and watching. So I love what you're talking about with the flexibility there. I also notice for both of you that a 10-day camp like this is exhausting. I don't.
Yes.
Now you're going to get tired laughing about how exhausting it is. Like it's something else. So what's it like to manage all that is happening? It looks like, oh, we're just doing these 4 rotations plus a stage, and then we're headed toward a performance. But there's a lot of little wheels in the back. And so how do you manage that, that humanity coming through as it gets a little hard, a little tiring?
I think you got to just take it one chunk at a time. I will say a few things. One, we had a lot of free arts programs team on site, which was essential in helping, like, hey, I have this problem, I have this teen that won't engage, and like how do I work through that as a counselor or a volunteer or an artist in the space. And they might come to like a programs team member to like sort that out. And that can be, it's great because we get to put our thinking cap on, but it can also be complex and convoluted. So I will say we also had, Chanel earlier mentioned Merlin was our camp director. He assisted me in putting together our team of adults. And it was really great to like have more than one person sort of be like in there. We could jump in and out. We had each other's backs. And I think that really made things go round. But it is definitely a lot. You might be handing out Tylenol and then
day 6 or 7.
Everybody needed. Everybody was breakdancing. Everybody's knees hurt.
I was genuinely concerned because I sat in the room where this box was, and one by one, everyone just kept coming, and I was like,
We were
happening.
running from building to building. We were dancing. We were really truly like moving our bodies from start to finish through the whole thing. So there was definitely lots of Tylenol, more than a few Tums, but also runs to the Free Arts office or to the store for supplies. And definitely
crackers at one point. Someone needed crackers.
Yeah, we had saltines to help like bring some nausea down for sure.
A lot happening.
But there were also things like, we are about to put on a show, we're dancing, and kiddos don't have closed-toed shoes or shoes that don't just slide right off. And how do we provide those so they can have a safe performance, in addition to looking maybe a little bit uniform when we get to like costuming level things. So there are a lot of moving pieces, and it takes a diverse and strong team, which I feel like we really nailed.
I can only say, so when I told my best friend that I was coming back to Free Arts this year, she was like, "Oh my gosh, are you taking a week off after to rest?" Because my first camp, I was exhausted.
Yeah.
But you know why? It's because you care so deeply about these campers that they get all of you. Like it's not a little bit of you. Like they get all of you, every ounce of energy. Doesn't matter if you slept poorly the night before. I walked into the space like they deserve all of me, and I want to give it. And it's that part that is exhausting, because then after you have made yourself be a goofball for 8 hours nonstop, standing, kicking, jumping,
through lunch,
yelling, rolling on the floor, like whatever it took to reach. Then the 40-year-old body that I have started saying, "Oh, you are not as young as you used to be, and this hurts." And then also, when people share with you, it can be emotionally heavy. Even if you are a good manager of that for yourself, it is still people trusting you with a part of themselves, and you can't help but still bear some of that weight, no matter how well you navigate that. And so also the emotional toll can sometimes be heavier. This camp, though, was actually pretty joyous, the majority of the experience, whereas I have had camps in the past where some of it has been a little bit harder emotionally.
And it's an important part to have that preparedness, right?
Yeah. I'm actually kind of curious. How many camps have you done? In any capacity?
Okay, in any capacity.
Yes.
One every year, essentially, since I started. So I did theater camp first. I did leadership camp. Remember when that was here for a second?
I
did leadership camp. I did hip hop camp before there was no longer hip hop camp.
Right.
Well, we got to fix that.
Yes.
Right.
Hip hop camp
Hip-hop
did
camp was my
come back during the
favorite.
pandemic. I'm just gonna say.
Okay.
And during the pandemic, I did the virtual version of theater camp. And so and then I volunteered 1 year. So I think I've only missed at that time from 2017 to now only 1 year, which I think was last summer because I was packed at my job.
Yeah.
What keeps you coming back every single time? If you had to wrap it up in a nutshell, what keeps you coming back to camp?
It's gonna sound so cheesy. It's like the kids, but it is. It is our young adults. I'm trying to remove kids from my language. It is our young adults. I feel like there is such a bond that you make with these campers in particular that are unlike any other camp I've ever worked for, and I've worked for a lot of camps. And that reciprocity you have with them, that personal investment that I have in their success, and seeing what their individual successes are, like we talked about, it's a different level. It's a heart level. Like when we were talking about process, and I was appreciative of that conversation because it allowed me to uncover within myself what is it that I really vibe with the most for theater. Because in my job, which I didn't share, I'm the Associate Artistic Director for Arizona Theater Company, and my job is to produce, and that is a great job. And there's a place for producing, but that also can come across sometimes to some people as like an elitist activity, like the theater is only reserved for a certain group of people, which is not true, as we all know. And so with theater camp, I get to see that same spark that I got when I was their age in this medium and in this art form, and then see it like nurtured and stoked a little bit, and that fire start to ember in them. And that is something that you don't really get to have multiple connections with when you're just producing big musicals. And I love producing big musicals, and they make us very happy, but it's something different to see that start in a child, and then how that manifests and how that grows into something that may be the love of their life and maybe a career opportunity or something. It's just different. It's a different connection here in the heart. People don't know I'm pointing at my chest. It's a different connection in your heart, and that is why. Like, it really is about the kids. Like, I could care less if I got paid. Honestly, like, I care less about any other factor. If for some reason if the camp ever existed without the kids, then I wouldn't be here. Even though I think Free Arts is wonderful, and I love the staff.
Well, we all agree that
we're there
And
too.
I'm sure the staff wants to put on a version of Oklahoma, and I can't wait to direct that.
Fun fact, I was in that in school.
Really?
I was in Oklahoma.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, but no, it's that connection to process and learning that is just can't be duplicated.
Yeah, it's powerful because we are encountering, I think in the most ideal setting, we'd all agree, we wish we didn't have to do a camp like this for a population like this.
Right.
And by that I mean that every young person has a very uniform set of personal experiences and support networks. And in many ways, Free Arts is filling a gap and doing it in a creative way because that opens up channels, right? I think when we talk about this, when we try to describe it to a funder or externally to someone that's trying to understand why art and why relationship, why do it this way, right? Something like theater camp gives the opportunity to explore your relationship with yourself while doing it with other people. Like, there's the external and then what's happening internally. And as we become adults, we get to choose, right? As we mature, we get to choose, like, how much am I disclosing, and is this the environment I want? And what we're trying to do with safety is create an opportunity where that's an okay risk to take, right? It's an okay risk to take. And that's why I think, as I'm hearing both of you talk about it, a very special part of what makes theater camp work.
It's allowing yourself to be vulnerable, like truly vulnerable. At the core, for me, being vulnerable as an artist, as well as accessing the vulnerability of our students, or like having a student after one day of camp say, "Can I come sing for you?" It's like, sure, of course. And then they lay their heart bare, and it's like, do you feel comfortable sharing that with everyone else? I don't know, but maybe. And then seeing them jump up there and then do that, like, I don't know. When you work in, like I said, an industry like I do, where we pay actresses just to get up there and do it, and sometimes there's like, oh God, a matinee. Whereas our students are like, oh, you mean there's lights? Like the first time, how would you describe the first time when everybody walked in and saw the Herberger?
Oh gosh, I think that particular setting is so special because it's a beautiful old and like prestigious theater, and some of these people haven't been in a theater like ever. So like there are a lot of really wide eyeballs and some gasps and some And I think we had that moment again when we had some of our adults and some of our teens together build some set pieces. So they came back one lunch and there was like a set and like lights, not just like the lights are on. And they're like, oh, it's getting a little bit more real. There's that like anticipation. There's a little bit of like awe. But it's cool because while we're doing all of these activities, those same teens are also getting more comfortable in the space because they've been hanging out on the stage all week. And it's really cool to watch them graduate from that moment where they first have seen that Herberger Theater Center to like, I feel like this is like a home, or like this is safe. Space. I can own this space. Absolutely. It's really special.
Yeah, the big eyes. That's the big. They go, oh, this is it. Like,
the little gasps. There's definitely that hesitation in the beginning for sure, and then you watch them warm up over time. It's really cool.
And they want to share. That's the biggest part.
Yeah,
they care. Like, and I tried to tell people, especially whenever you're nervous, it's just because you care. That's it. That's literally why you care, and it's that simple. And so connecting with some of our campers are like, oh my God, I'm so nervous, miss. And I'm like, it's because you care. And thank you for caring. And you do have people that are coming. So thank you for caring enough about this process to give them a show.
And I think about the social bonding that happens where like I am nervous and scared before performance, but they're counting on me. I'm going to do my little part.
Exactly. 100%. And then if someone feels like they can't do it, which we have had happen in camps past and in this camp, you know, there was a camper that was totally on board during the dress rehearsal to read their poem, and then the lights showed up and 300 people were out there, and, you know, it got real. And that person no longer felt comfortable, and immediately one of the other campers said, I got you. And read that person's poem in their stead, which says a lot, again, about the collaborative nature of camp, the bonds that are solidified between the campers, too, of various different, like you said, agencies that they all come from, with various different backgrounds, to be able to connect to one another and have each other's back, even if they're not even in the same home. It's incredible.
We could talk about theater camp all day.
All day.
But as we're kind of closing up our episode here, I'm wondering if you might be willing to share a particular favorite memory or moment you've had, or if you might encapsulate what you think a young person experiences in theater camp.
I think that my favorite memory goes hand in hand with something that Free Arts emphasizes a lot, which is closure. When you are living in a group home, you might have been removed from your home or other group homes rather unceremoniously and quickly. You don't have time to say goodbye to your friends or your family. You've got the shoes on your feet. You're grabbing a couple of things if you're lucky, and you're moving. So we make sure at the end of every day to have some sort of closure routine, but also at the very end of the camp, we made sure that there was time for campers to say goodbye to the adults they had spent all that time bonding with and connecting with. So we lined them up in a row, and we had each adult cycle through each individual camper and say what they saw in that camper and what they hope they take with them. And by the end, we definitely had, even our teenage boys were sobbing because it might be the first time that an adult has ever come up to them and said, I see that you're a leader. I see that you have these strengths, and here's what I want you to really take with you. And by the end of it, they were saying things back like, this opportunity changed my life, and I'm so glad I got to be here, and thank you. And all of that was incredibly special.
Yeah.
I agree. That's also my favorite part. That is my favorite part, genuinely. And then I would say the electricity and the buzz that happens during opening night, or I guess opening and closing night, where everybody, the lights go down, someone goes out to give the curtain speech, and then you see everyone backstage like, this is real. And then they're immediately telling each other where to go. They're getting straightened up in the wings. They're psyching stuff up. If someone felt like they weren't ready, you see other people encouraging them to get ready to go out on stage. It's they actually literally take over the show at that point.
Yeah.
And adults are no longer there. They are running the show, and it's amazing because we've been facilitating the whole week, but to see them take that ownership, that's really powerful. And then after the show, in the courtyard, when again, who cares about the adults? The love that was happening for all of the campers to really make sure that they let each and every one of them know what they felt for one another and how much they were going to miss each other, and maybe we'll see you at the next camp. Like, that was what's exciting, and I loved watching from afar all of them just love up on one another and encourage one another and not feel like I had to insert myself, right? As the adult, it was best to just sit back and watch them have that beautiful moment together and know that now I'm literally seeing the impact that campus had on them.
Yeah.
Wonderful and beautiful. We're thankful that both of you were able to come by and talk about experience with camp. So to close us up and remind us all here, theater camp is delivered to a special population, and the way to connect to that, to free arts, is by a partner agency that's serving this population. We'd love that we could do this direct to parents and families individually, but that's not the model for this because of how the young people who receive the experience need to be cared for. And so that's done intentionally. So this is a great segue into that, but we're very glad for your efforts. We thank you very much here. And for our dear listeners and viewers, don't forget to like and subscribe, and also give us a review on give us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Matt. This is Jenna. This is the programs team for Canvas of the Heart. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to this episode of Canvas of the Heart. We'd love to hear your questions and feedback by email at hello@freeartsaz.org. You can find more information about Free Arts by visiting our website at freeartsaz.org. We'd like to thank the many individual and corporate donors and the hundreds of volunteers that make Free Arts programs possible. Take care, and we will talk to you soon.